Good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Individual Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Daris D. McKinney. Yes. It's pretty early. Had to get my water. I gotta get a glass. I might step away for a second to get a cup of coffee too. Yeah, how you guys doing? Yeah, we got work to do today, and we're gonna start it off by doing some reaction to the you know pressured to go on Fox News Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. Okay, so you know what, I did a reaction video. It's a little, couple little stutterings. I don't know if we're gonna get some stuttering on this one, but you know what, I'm gonna use this time to just kind of talk to you guys, and let's just jump into it. Okay.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
Voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number, do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is
Getting to the point.
We have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said, Vice President,
so already, and I understand it's like, in the liberal columns, and this is why I'm telling people that it's so corrupt and it's so shady, and then how do you guys not know that your belief system in the Democrat Party and liberals is a psychological manipulation mindset? It's not a free, it's your thoughts, it's your vision and stuff. Look, we gonna have a long day today, okay? We really are. Okay, my stream is starting to slow down a little bit. It's some kind of little kind of buffering situation that happens, so hopefully through our conversations we can get through it. It does kick back on where it doesn't disturb us. So for the next 6 minutes or so, guys, if you don't mind, just we're gonna try to work through it. Okay. So it's just interesting to see that she already starts off by saying that I'm glad you asked that question about immigration, and you know what I'm about to say. What I'm about to, and then she goes to, we have a broken immigration policy. Trump put in 94 executive orders, and he put 28,000 soldiers on the border that he made Mexico put their 28,000 soldiers, not U.S. soldiers. It was 28,000 Mexican soldiers. They stopped people from coming into their country because they did their whole border lines, and they did our 2,000 stretch, like our border from, we got 2,000 miles of border line, and they put 28,000 military soldiers all along that border. That's what Mexico did. That's what he got Mexico to do. So we didn't have any people coming over from the country. They always say, Trump got he had 2.4 million people that crossed over the border during his administration. No, that's 2.4 million people that came over the border when Homeland Security of the Joe Biden Homeland Security released those numbers. You gotta go get the real numbers, not no subjective saying, okay, we let in 10 to 15 million people, but Trump let in 2. We all bad at this. That's what the narrative is. But the truth of the matter is, liberals are out cold. They always say that, Obama was the commander and the deporter in chief and everything. No, he wasn't. He got rid of criminal ass illegal immigrants, but he kept all the parents, all the family orientated, the legal immigrants crossing into the border through his administration. If they were a family, if they was a man and a wife, or a man and a wife and a kid, he let them in. They part of our society to this day. So that he's kicking out illegal immigrants, and they say, oh, Obama had them in cages and stuff like that, which they were detained, and you had to separate people to know the ask the kids and the women, okay, is that your husband? Is that just such and such? To make sure that they wasn't letting a lot of criminals and people in that was kind of getting smuggled or like trafficked in. So that's what they had to separate kids and women and everything. And Obama administration and Trump administration the same way. You know what I mean? But letting the people come in just like they want to. No, Trump was fighting against that. I don't care if he was a family. I don't care if he was a kid. I don't care if he was a woman. Women and kids was just as illegal as men crossing over the border illegal was. That's how Trump did it. So I don't want to see the difference in that. I don't want people to try to make some kind of relativeness to how Obama did it and how Trump did it. Obama would have never had Mexico put 28,000 soldiers along our 2,000 mile stretch borderline. He would have never did that. He would have never put in a policy saying remain in Mexico. You don't even come in here unless we let you in. So that's why they got this. That's why they trying to dilute Trump's accomplishment by saying that he let in 2.4 million people in his 4 years. Nah, those are faulty numbers given by the crazy people that opened the border for Biden in order for them to say, oh well, it's not really, you can't really stop anything. Even in Trump administration, that they had people crossing over the border. Untrue. Okay, so it's all fake news, and it's all propaganda. And I keep telling you guys don't think America and our government is evil as it is, and it is. It's very, very evil, very shady. What would our CIA do to overthrow governments and throw a lot of confusion into governments? We just did that to ourselves. You get what I'm saying? So it's not tactics that they don't use. We just not supposed to attack our own country. We're not supposed to make our own country divisive. So the things that we employ into Ukraine, into Russia, into Europe, into the Middle East, into like Venezuela and Cuba, all the propaganda that we and our CIA and our FBI, and I'm the FBI ain't supposed to be doing nothing but protecting American citizens, but they doing so much other stuff nowadays. You just don't know where the thread lines move from intelligence to the Department of to keep the infringement of citizens, to stop infringement of citizens' rights. That's what FBI's job is. But they so blurred the line between intelligence agency and the citizens police that you don't even know what they doing anymore. So that's why I'm including them into the spy and intelligence agency, because that's what they've been doing for the last 20 to 30 years. You get what I'm saying? Heavily, literally 50 to 60 years. They went really heavily into manipulating society. That's what the FBI did. So it's bad. I'm not telling you guys it's good news. The bad part about it is that's the whole point of Trump, is because the first time he was so grateful to win, and he wanted to fight for the citizens and everything, and then when he won, it was surprising to him in a little way, and at the same time, now he got to put all the stuff that he's fought to do into play, and he didn't know, like, you can't have your political party part of your administration. You can't. You got to get people with the qualifications of the specific job you're asking them to do, but they cannot be loyal to the Republican Party. They can't be loyal to the Democrat Party. They literally got to know how to just do the job. And he didn't know that that's the mandate that he should go into the government with, effective of him winning. And he found out that 90% of all the Republicans that was around him and the so-called conservative people that was around him, even Steve Bannon, they were shady, they were backstabbers, they wanted to be bigger than him. You get what I'm saying? How can I run a company if I'm a CEO when all the employees wanna bully me, wanna tell me what to do, wanna when I give a command, they have opposition to it. That's not gonna work. I don't care how radical you think Trump's plans are. That's why we put him there. The people. That's exactly why the citizens put him there. So now Trump comes in there this time with Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, and Vivek Ramaswamy. That's an amazing team that's going into that actual White House. And everybody else going to be commanded under those four people, with Trump leading the pack. You get what I'm saying? So it's really amazing to see how the mindset is and how we're manipulating the people and the voters to think that this is an election about abortion. This is an election about voting for the first woman president. And that's the only reason why Kamala may win. It's because the fight that the conservatives, the Republicans should be having, they're not having that fight. And on top of that, I think if Trump loses, it's because the Republicans, they made him lose. They got so much jealous rhetoric going on inside the Republican Party against Trump that 10 to 20% of Trump's voters, you can't trust those people. Now, Trump is actually doing so powerful that he's technically replacing 20% of the Republican voters with black Democrats, with Hispanic Democrats. You get what I'm saying? And unlikely voters and independents. So if Trump wins, that's the coalition that's going to help him win. Not TPUSA, not certain conservative organization. They failed. We 2 weeks away from the election, pretty much, and I could come out and say I'm grateful for what TPUSA is doing in Arizona. We're gonna win Arizona, and number one reason why you're gonna win Arizona is because of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is the reason why we're winning Arizona. But I'm telling you, they failed everywhere else. And it was Charlie Kirk and TPUSA job to know what's going on in Wisconsin, what's going on in Michigan, what's going on in Nevada, what's going on in Georgia, what's going on in Arizona, what's going on in Pennsylvania. And I think they just as aware of that as other news organizations, not their ground game. Now, if I'm wrong, then it's an easy win for Trump then. It's an easy win for Trump because his numbers is so phenomenal. There's no way that he should be 2 to 3 points down from Kamala in any way. But there's a 2 to 3 point difference there that I think she might be up, that we not looking at, that we don't got control of, because how the Republicans, they want to keep decorum, they want to keep niceties, they want to try to keep a fair interaction with the Democrats, and the Democrats is clubbing them in the head. So it's just ridiculous. So let's get back to the speech, and that she's kind of, the interview, and she's just kind of acting like, you know, her talking point is a bill that would have let in it do the 2021 up to 2024, because that's when they tried to stop the flow of the illegal migrants, and they kept them into Mexico, and they start flying them in. The reason why you guys don't see the border messed up right now is because we're flying them in. They're going to an app in Mexico, and they're actually signing their asylum in Mexico or filling out their form of asylum in Mexico. They're loading the plane and they're flying people in. That's how they're doing. That's how you're getting all those Haitians in Springfield. That's how all that stuff going on. They're flying them in. So we still got a heavy migration situation. It's just they're flying them in. They're filling out an app and they're flying them in. They still been shady, replacing the hell out of the American citizens. You get what I'm saying? In addition to this, you have. We'll get into it. Let's go back and let her get through this interview.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when
you
came into
try to
office, your
filibuster.
administration immediately reversed a number of Trump.
See, she's trying to filibuster. They came into this interview, and what people don't know is they came in there, told him that he only got 20 minutes to ask her questions. On top of that 20 minutes, she's trying to filibuster 10 minutes of it. Just go into her talking points, go into her commercial ads, go into her attack on Trump and the narrative that she wants to give. She don't want to answer the questions. She's not there to answer the questions. And that's the actual game plan that they came up with. So that's what you're seeing put in play.
Border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath.
Like, that's a hell of a question, but listen to what she's about to answer. I know, I'm gonna stop. I'll stop, just in case you haven't seen it.
Instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially...
Sorry about that. It's something going on, sticking, sticking on my, I don't know why the internet speed is just throttling like that, or what's going on with this. Because really, it's good enough to play, but I don't want the sticking of it. So sorry about that, guys. Let me let them continue, and I'll just kind of cut in when I can, okay?
To terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration.
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before We worked on infrastructure before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising,
okay,
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not responding to it. That's the problem.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up.
She's not answering the question about the millions of people that came in, and part of those millions of people came in and raped 12-year-old kids. She's not answering that question.
Points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress.
And that bill didn't come into 2024 February.
That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which...
Yeah, and this is the problem, y'all. The first thing they did when they came into office, Trump had 94 presidential executive orders to close that border, okay? And part of that closing that border was people had to remain in Mexico. They had agreement with Mexico and everything. That's why the 28 Mexican soldiers was on that border, that 2,000-mile border. Additional to that, they had to stay in Mexico until we decide who they are and if we would ever let them come into the country. That's how Trump had it. When Biden and them came into office, they hate Trump so much, and they were so divisive against just the name of Trump, and that this guy had the nerve to run for president, that they came in and they cleared 94 executive order. They had to go through 94 signatures in order to clear out all 94 executive orders that was protecting the border to stop people from being able to come into the country. They cleared all that out. That's what opened up the border. So now Mexico removed their 28,000 soldiers, and it allowed the actual country to be open because Biden and Kamala, they pretty much told people to come on in. So Mexico said, okay, y'all letting them come in. We're going to remove our soldiers then. They let them come in. She's talking about a pathway. Like, y'all got to come up with a way to let us make these people become citizens really quick. So the first thing they did when they came in is they handed Congress a bill to give amnesty to 11 million people, make them automatic citizens. It wasn't about no protection. It was just about making 11 million people, citizens. That's what majority it was. They didn't want to do no wall. They didn't want to do no major physical things like what they talking about they want to do now. But they didn't want to do none of that. That's the first thing they did. They wanted to show the people that they were really making this country open pretty much. So they did that for 3 years. That's why you seen all that crazy stuff. People coming in, crossing over the border, laying under bridges. They overwhelmed the border. And then in 2024, when the people start to say that they supported Trump doing a mass deportation, they came out, well, we gotta stop them from running that border. And they came up with the app, and they started trying to sneak people in pretty much that way. That's what happened. That gives you up to date. The Republicans decided in February to partner up with Democrats to give a bill to let 5,000 people in per day. All that nasty stuff that you guys seen for the last 3 years that you thought was really crazy at the border, all that border crossing, that was the average of 5,000 to 7,000 people coming in per day. Now they want to put that in law, and Republicans came up with a bill to put that in law. That's the bill she's talking about.
Which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents.
Go to my Rumble channel. I am been doing this for a lot. I've got hundreds of hours of podcasts. Go to Rumble. All the links is in the descriptions in the bottom. Go to the channel. You can watch all the things that I've been talking about. I got a series called The Migrant Paradox. It's a 3-episode thing that I did. And I explain all this to you. I walk you through this. I show video of it and everything. She was the border czar. She was the person that was supposed to make the great decisions to stop all that stuff. Those girls should not have been murdered and killed if she did her job. But she didn't want to because they're trying to remake America. They're trying to lower the power of white vote. So they're trying to kind of have a certain amount of people come into the country, like 30, 40 million Hispanics or foreigners come into the country and vote Democrat in order to change the demographic of the white vote. But what they end up doing is they end up hurting black Americans because black Americans are losing jobs. They're losing grants and everything that they're trying to level up and become entrepreneurs and everything. And in the midst of that, they had to deal with all that money going to ingest these people into our society. When it's all said and done, you're going to find out that a lot of these immigrants got about $100,000 to $250,000 establishing funding to them, where the government helped them get on their feet. Did your government ever do that to you, for you? That's the question. No. And that's crazy. All your money, while you're losing your house, while you get everything repoed, while you're getting evicted, while you're getting going through foreclosure and bankruptcy, all your money that you put into the treasurer from Social Security and your taxes is getting put into the up mobility of foreigners and people that aren't even citizens. They haven't even been here 10 years. So that's what you're voting for when you vote for Kamala. Okay?
Supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem.
Now she's conflating the amnesty bill that they did when they first came in office in 2021 and the bill that they just tried to pass in February 2024. She's merging those two bills together and merging her talking points about those two bills together. And I'm telling you, that should piss you off. Why she's doing that? Because her message with that is you're dumb. You don't know what the hell is going on. You don't know what she's saying. And because she can articulate it in a communicative way, it's so much better than what you could do. You so dumb. You don't know how to speak. You don't have good dictation. You don't have good communication. She does. So whatever she's saying, she got to be telling the truth because she can speak better than you can speak. She knows for more vocabulary than you do. That's the message there. Because if you actually knew what she's saying, you're saying, why are you saying that? Are you calling me dumb? Are you telling me that I don't understand what you're talking about? That I don't understand that you're conflating two bills together? An amnesty bill that you guys wanted to put in law as soon as you came into the country, and then another bill to stop the crazy stuff that y'all was doing for the last 3 years that you passed in February 2024 after the worst of the migration situation happened. After these girls were murdered and killed because you let certain people come into the country on your watch in your open border situation, that these girls got killed and murdered and raped and put into creeks and bushes and all kind of crazy stuff. The reason why I'm being grotesque about this is because she's trying to act like, don't worry about the girls that get killed. Don't worry about the murders that happen. Don't worry about all the crime that happens we got a bigger job to do. You guys are not having enough babies, and we want to stop the white vote for having so much prominence over the election. That's the mission, and any means necessary. That's the goal. That's the goal. And now, it used to be a liberal, a Democrat ideology and a mission, but when the Pentagon, when Republicans, when the CIA, when the FBI, when our intelligence agencies seen that Trump was trying to change everything about them or audit them, they said, no, we gotta side with the Democrats, because this guy trying to come in and find out all our secrets and expose us to the American people. We cannot allow that. And so that's why you have Pence. Pence was in Trump's administration to watch Trump and stop him from making any moves that he felt that it wasn't with our political system, our religious and our evangelicalness and our conservatism ideology and the makeup of our government, because the mission is to preserve the agencies, not to reform the agencies. So that's why Elon Musk is coming in to help audit all the administrations, all the agencies. That's what's going on. And that, look, and then Tulsi Gabbard is there to coming in there to run that stuff, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah, this is gonna, if Trump gets elected, you're gonna see one of the most powerful administration ever known to man. Ever known. It's gonna be awesome. But I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's so much backstabbing going on in the Republican Party. I can't tell you he'll win because of that. It's too much of it. You know, so he's doing his job. He's doing a phenomenal job to replace that 20% backstabbers. So let me go back to this and let her finish up.
Instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases.
But we don't care.
There's no question about that.
But we don't care.
There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border.
The funny part about that is she's talking about 9 months ago, and those murders happened last year. That had nothing to do with this border bill or anything. So right there, she actually hurt herself, because those bills she's so shady is ridiculous. These are from people you let in to the country and you placed in. So that's from last year going into this year that those murders happened to those girls. This is ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with no border bill. Even if the border bill got passed, those guys couldn't get collected because they were already let into the country. It's ridiculous.
More support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm
Filibuster
would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies.
This is September 10th, y'all. We're in 2024 right now, okay? Okay, her daughter's dead and gone by this time. You get what I'm saying? What is she talking about?
Release. They were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States.
Yeah, I'm gonna let her finish up. I don't want to interrupt the mother because you guys got to hear the policy that actually, and what's the situation that happens with the guys. See, she found out everything about how these guys are in this country, and she's giving you this is what happened. This is what caused. It's the cause and effect of my daughter getting raped and murdered and killed. 12-year-old girl.
More support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all
her?
fairness, I told you, I feel awful for
But
what
we
she
don't
and her
care.
family have
The
experienced.
mission is
During
there.
that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges.
Pandering.
We need to
She's trying to throw him off
because
she's know he's on a piece like a pit bull. He's coming for you, and he's not moving off the subject. And this is very rare for Fox News. They always want to get to the next segment, get to the next question, but he's interrogating her on this and getting a clear, concise answer for her about why did you guys let these people in? And now we're finding out that Venezuela emptied out their prisons and they got rid of all their criminals and let them cross into the border. So they're doing crime as they migrate over into different countries, and then they came into our border and did more. Like, this is ridiculous. So let me let her finish up with her excuse.
We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
there were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because There's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border...
You speak so highly of them supporting a crappy bill that lets 5,000 people come into the country, pretty much keep the crazy migration situation going, but now it's officially legal. You're talking about that bill, and you're talking about their supporting of that bill, and they were wrong. The border union was wrong, but they even checked themselves, and they decided we were wrong, and we need to support Trump because he got the real policy. And now, like, you're contradicting yourself. You've been a hypocrite. If the value of what the perception is of that Border Patrol Union was valuable, and they telling you that they made a mistake and they're going to Trump's side, what do you got to say about that? That means that you have no legitimacy. That's what that means.
Security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention...
Liar.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz,
Ridiculous.
that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
No, but let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel.
Same stuff she says in commercials. She's going to get
drugs and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass.
So funny because she knows how dumb you guys are and that you don't understand what she's talking about. And you don't know the policies and you don't know the situation of the stuff. So her and her team tried to do Oppo research on this situation because it's a federal law that's got put in place by President Obama and his weird people. You get what I'm saying? And how ridiculous our government is. But Trump is against all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't allow any federal prisons to give surgeries to illegal migrants or criminals and stuff like that. She said, well, the law was in place. The law was in place through my administration and through Trump's administration. Yeah, but you're advocating for it. And you actually communicated that you put it into California law to help individual people actually get it. That's the conversation. So are you for it or are you not? Oh, I'm going to follow the law. Meaning that she's for it. If the law said I could do it, I'm doing it. Crazy.
House.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in
so
black and white.
would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for
these young girls like Jocelyn, the 12-year-old, get murdered and killed because you guys got legal immigrants coming into the country? You get what I'm saying? And yeah, you gotta take responsibility for what goes into in your administration. Meaning that Trump has people, I don't even know, because like they said, nobody got that surgery under Trump. So it doesn't even matter if it's a law that he has to abide by. But at the same time, she's advocating for that stuff. It's ridiculous, boy. Gotta pay attention to what they're saying. You know, I'm looking at Jocelyn and when she got murdered and stuff. I think it was this year. I think June 27th, 2024 was where her funeral was. So these guys came into the country in 2020? Gotta see when they were led into the country. Whenever they were led in the country, even if it was this year. You get what I'm saying? That's crazy. That's how I gotta look this up, because I want to know when those guys got led into the country. When was they let into the country? Because they killed the girl this year. And it's a legal immigrant that came in this year. Or at least last year. So I gotta look at that again. But look, no matter what, that open border stuff and what they did to kind of just let people like come into the country and seek asylum, and you're not even vetting these people or anything, and they end up murdering people in our country, that's your fault. That's your fault. What do you got to say about that? And she keeps talking about a bill that in order for us to stop with the 94 executive orders that they just let people come into the country, because otherwise they would have never been there. It was 28,000 soldiers on the border. They couldn't get past Mexico. They couldn't even come into Mexico to even travel into America, because when they came into office, the effective mandate of our border, this is how our border was, y'all. Anything after this is all Biden and Kamala's fault, when they supported these executive orders to stop it. So when they came into office, they had 28,000 soldiers on the border of Mexico. Okay? And if Mexico keep the 28,000 soldiers on the border, then the tariffs of Mexico products wouldn't get put into place. Biden came in and wrote an executive order to stop that executive order that Trump put in place. Then he did 93 other executive orders to stay in Mexico, where all migrants have to stay in Mexico and claim asylum in Mexico, and we decide if we'll even let them come anywhere near our border. Okay? He signed the executive order there. All the churches and the actual they call them GIOs, where it's like people that actually help migrants come into countries of origins for a better life and all that stuff. They start communicating with the migrants and the actual, what they call there's like a bunch of people coming into the border, and then they told them, hey, they're allowing people to come into America now. They just, so by the time the migrants come with the surge to the border, they didn't see any Mexican military, and Mexico actually let them come in, travel from Venezuela and different countries into their country to go to America. Now it was just open, and then all the way from 2001 all the way up to 2024, because now that I read this report, they still let people come in even after it was her job to stop it. And you guys don't understand. She was given this job in the beginning of her administration. I'll go back to it. Let me see. Okay, where we at? 1503. Okay, I'm gonna let them tell you in their own words that was her responsibility to not let all these people come into this country and then this girl get killed and murdered.
Two announcements to make. One is we've got ourselves a secretary. Javier, welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being willing to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And also today, I said when we became a team and got elected that the vice president's going to be the last person in the room. She didn't realize that means she gets every assignment. But the vice president and I and all of us here have been working very hard to pass the legislation that is going to beat this virus, as well as get people back to work and change their prospects. And so she's traveling all over the country working that. In addition to that, there's about 5 other major things she's handling, but I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help us. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border. And, you know, back when I was vice president, I got a similar assignment, but one of the things we did was we made sure that we got a bipartisan agreement with Democrats and Republicans to provide over $700 million to the countries in the Northern Triangle to determine the best way to keep people from coming is keep them from wanting to leave. And the reason why so many people were leaving, we learned, was that not only gang violence and trafficking cartels, but natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. And so it's not like someone sits around a hand union table somewhere in Guatemala and says, I got a great idea, let's sell everything we have, give the money to a coyote, have them take our kids or us to the border of America, take us across, leave us in the desert, we don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? One of the ways we learned is that if you deal with the problems in country, it benefits everyone. It benefits us, it benefits the people, and it grows the economies there. Unfortunately, the last administration eliminated that funding, did not engage in it, did not use it, even though there was over $700 million to help get this done. We're reinstituting that program. And there are, as I said, there are many factors as to why people leave in the first place. But this is the source of one of the reasons why we've had such a, before we took office, in the midst of the last administration's somewhat draconian policies of separating children from their parents, et cetera, what happened was that we found that there were a serious spike in the number of people heading to the southern border, even in the midst of that. And as Alejandro can tell you, is that was because there were serious natural disasters that occurred in those countries. They were coming north, and we did nothing to do much about it. So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. And so this increase has been consequential. But the vice presidents agreed, among the multiple other things that happened at the meeting, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders. We're already talking with Mexico about that. She's already done that. We're going to be dealing with a full team in country.
And I want you guys to pay attention to that. She said we lead her to communicate and manage everything going on at the border, and when we deport people, they got to take the people back. Now, I want you guys to understand, this happened. This actually, her getting put in charge of the border and sending people back, and them working out situations to stop people from coming into the country for other citizens. This happened on March 24th, 2021. This conversation right here. This happened on March 24th, 2021. This press conference, when she got executive order to be in charge of the border and send people back and stop the flow of migrants and stop. So this is before millions of people came across the border, and they just overwhelmed our border with the open border policies that they had. So you got to ask yourself, if they actually was putting in the plan to stop people from coming to the border, why did all those people come to the border? Why did all those people come to the border then? Because this was before the major, huge people was traveling and came into the border. This is before they got to the border. Why did they stop it? Because they took all those military soldiers down. They put all the NGOs into play to start taking the people into the country, into churches, into different cities and stuff. They put all that in place, and it was us that they were lying to. They did this press conference to take our attention off of what was about to happen and let it happen. This is wild stuff. So this is before any other people got killed and murdered or anything like. Well, it's a lot of people was getting killed and murdered from illegal immigrants, but before the really horrible stuff started happening, that's recent. This is what was put in place. And look, all they had to do is keep the thing that Trump put into play. They already had agreement for the 28,000 soldiers. We didn't have to put none of our military soldiers on the border for a 2,000-mile borderline. It literally was already set. All they had to do is keep that. We already had agreement with Mexico and how much to pay, how Mexico dealt with the payment of them. And they always talk about Trump ain't get Mexico to pay for the wall, but he got Mexico to put a human wall up, and they paid for it. And Mexico paid for those soldiers to be on that border, all because he used tariffs against them because that's how much money and power Mexico is getting for Ford, GM, Chrysler, putting factories into actual Mexico, and all our different companies putting companies in to Mexico for lower manufacture costs and bring those same products back into our country. And Trump threatened to put a tariff on all that stuff. They were willing to put 28,000 soldiers along a 2,000-mile border to stop Trump from putting a tariff. All they had to do is keep that in play. You would have had none of these murders. You would have had none of this stuff go on. So I'm showing you evidence. Evidence. This is not from Daris. This is from Joe Biden and Kamala's own mouth that they were in charge of the border, effective of March 2024, literally January 20 of 2021. But they actually put it on record to you. 2020, March 24, 2021. And look at the damage. Look at how much money. Look at what they did to get new voters into this country. And that's what they done.
Country. It benefits everyone. It benefits us, it benefits the people, and it grows the economies there. Unfortunately, the last administration eliminated that funding and did not engage in it, did not use it, even though there was over $700 million to help get this done. We're reinstituting that program. And there are, as I said, there are many factors as to why people leave in the first place. But This is the source of one of the reasons why we've had such a, before we took office, in the midst of the last administration's somewhat draconian policies of separating children from their parents, etc. What happened was that we found that there were a serious spike in the number of people heading to the southern border, even in the midst of that. And as Alejandro can tell you, is that was because there were serious natural disasters that occurred in those countries. They were coming north, and we did nothing to do much about it. So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. And so this increase has been consequential, but the vice president's agreed, among the multiple other things that have happened in the meeting, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders, We're already talking with Mexico about that. She's already done that. We're going to be dealing with a full team now that we have to be able to deal with the problem here at home, but also to deal with it now in terms of in country. And I can think of nobody who's better qualified to do this than a former. This is a woman who ran the second largest Attorney General's office in America after the United States Attorney General in the state of California, and has done a great deal upholding human rights, but also fighting organized crime in the process. So it's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort, because I think the best thing to do is to put someone who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about, is that where the president is? When she speaks for me, doesn't have to check with me, she knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along. But so, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, and you're smiling, but there's no one better capable of trying to organize this for us.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having the confidence in me. And there's no question that it's a challenging situation. As the president.
Okay, so are we done? Are we done talking about she's not ahead of the border? She wasn't responsible for all the migration situation and people coming into the border, the different obstacles that comes into play of people coming into the border. This is plain speak. I'm giving you guys the data. Stop saying that she's not the border czar. Now, the communication of the border czar came from liberals, literally came from like CBS and ABC and CNN and MSNBC. They called her that, okay? They call her the border czar. So all it means is the person that leads policies and different operations of the border. And this guy right here, that his back turns towards us, that's pretty much the guy that takes care of illegal immigrant situations and stuff like that. So that's why he's there. Okay. So, but she's in charge of it. And he told you bluntly, whatever policies that she comes up with for the border, she don't have to check with me. She speaks for me, and her voice is just as powerful as if it was just me. That's what he said. So stop, y'all. I'll let her finish this up to let you guys know that she's claiming it too. Okay.
As the president has said, there are many factors that lead president to leave these countries. And while we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law, and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek, as the president has described, to come here. And I look forward to engaging in diplomacy with government, with private sector, with civil society, and the leaders of each in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and ensure shared prosperity in the region. We will collaborate with Mexico and other countries throughout the Western Hemisphere And as part of this effort, we expect that we will have collaborative relationships to accomplish the goals the president has and that we share.
And what are they collaborating on? What's she talking to Mexico about? What's she talking to Venezuela about? What's she talking to any of the southern atmospheric countries talking about? Allowing people to come into their country, to cross into their borders, to come into Mexico, to come into America. That's what she's talking to them about. To stop that progress. It's her job to make sure that all these young girls, all these women, all these people that get killed and murdered and all kind of stuff, and all the billions and trillions of dollars that they about to spend, because I'm thinking it's going to be about $2 trillion when they done, to make sure that these people are great, wealthy, well-financed citizens of this country. They're going to make sure they tight. They got a problem. Americans, see this, I think we should fight through our own battles, and any financial situations that we come into, we just got to find a way to solve it and rise above it in different situations like that. But if you're going to use our tax money to give up mobility to citizens, it better be American citizens, and they better have been here for 20 to 30 years. Okay? So our government thinks it's tacky and it's a socialist and a government country if you decide to bail out $1.1 trillion of credit card debt for the American citizens. If you decide to bail out $1 trillion in student loans, if you decide to do that, that's looked to frowned upon. Republicans frown upon that. Democrats frown upon that. Or we got to have y'all give some kind of money back and all the other stuff. Why? Y'all giving the money away. Y'all giving $2 trillion away. You giving trillions of dollars to Afghanistan and Iraq and all that crazy stuff. Getting trillions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel and all that stuff like that. Why? Bail the American people out. Bail the American people out. It's their money. Bail them out. But what we decided to do, we decided to let 30 to 40 million illegal migrants come into this country. And for the next, I'll say from the last 5 to 10 years, I'll say 10 to 12, because you got to start at 2012 when Obama started letting people come in like that. So 2012 to 2024, you guys decided to spend about $2 trillion on illegal migrants, refugees, all that crazy stuff. But the American people get destroyed, bankrupt. They get into financial insolvency where they are destroyed and they can't get back on their feet. And all you had to do is bail out America's citizens with the $1.1 trillion in credit card debt and $1 trillion in college tuition and stuff, and then you'll see an actual sovereignty of the country, and then they can work themselves up and make better financial decisions and become better entrepreneurs, because that's what the government did. Gave them a good step up off point and a refreshing situation with the intelligence that they have now. I'd rather gamble on the American people understanding what bad financial decisions that they made before and how not to make those decisions again, than illegal migrants coming to the country, getting houses, cars, and everything to be put into a better economic situation to go get a job and then capitalize off that. And we're committing suicide. We're getting destroyed. We're going bankrupt. We're getting our houses taken from us. We're getting evicted. We're getting repoed. All kind of stuff like that. It's ridiculous. But that's what they doing, y'all. And it's a racist situation, because it's all in efforts to stop the white vote, to take the power of the white vote from white Americans. Okay? But they're willing to destroy the country in order to do that. And it so happened to be, if something happened that they didn't even know that was going to happen, and how it end up affecting black Americans more than it affect white Americans. So they plan didn't work, and it's hurting black Americans to this day. But black Americans so stupid. They want the perception of the first black woman president instead of having a black woman president. You get what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous. For me, I'm not, it's not about going against women. It's about, we cannot financially do another 4 years like what we did. I'm losing too much. I'm at a really great place in my business. And it's a every man for themselves type of culture in our country. It's like we're eating our own in our country right now because people are not free to just interact and take risks and chances with each other in banks. They're not lending money. They're not doing anything. It's every man for themselves, and it's self-preservation. That's the culture we have, and we can't do this. This is not going to be good for my business and all the hard work I did in the last decade, or at least the last 6 years. I did some heavy stuff, and I'm supposed to be getting some major rewards for it, but I can't because of the culture is so self-preservation. That's why I'm voting against Kamala, and I'm voting for Donald J. Trump. For some reason, his just the way he is, people let that money flow, and that's the culture that he brings to the country, but they don't like it because political ideology and perceptions of decorum and statesmen and all this other bullcrap that doesn't mean anything, and it won't protect the country. It won't protect our constitutional rights. Strong arm, a strong person, aggressive person, and decisive decision makes our country safe, free, and protects our individual rights. And that's why I vote for Trump. The only reason why I'm playing this to you, I know people saying like, hey, where's the debate? Where's the interview with Fox? I'm doing that. The reason why I went to this because I wanted to prove to you guys that she was ahead of administrating that border, and she failed. So I'm looking at her own words tell you she failed.
I also look forward to working with members of the Congress who I think share our perspective on the need to address root causes for the migration that we've been seeing. And needless to say, the work will not be easy, but it is important work. It is work that we demand and the people of our countries, I believe, need to help stem the tide that we have seen. So thank you, Mr. President, for your confidence.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you for willing to do it. Now we're going to get down to business here, and Ron, who am I turning this over to?
Okay, so let's get back to the Fox News interview of her lying. Let's go back to it. Now you guys got context that she was a liar about all the border stuff, okay?
Frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened.
She got a lot of nerve.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of. I think
She's so funny. He spent $20 million. He had the nerve to spend $20 million on that ad. It was effective, and it beat us at our propaganda. But he had the nerve to spend $20 million on that ad. Y'all spent $400 million telling the American people that he's part of Project 2025. Or that he's trying to take women's abortion rights away from them. Or he's trying to have a countrywide abortion ban. That's a lie like hell. And y'all spent y'all spent $200 and $400 million on that. The same budget of Avatar that making $2 billion at the box office. Y'all spent that money on Project 2025 and abortion. And you talking about $20 million of him doing an effective ad that he didn't have to spend $400 million to really hit you good. And he played it in the midst of football, and everybody's talking about it in the media. So stupid. They're ridiculous. So they're jealous of his effectiveness. That's what the conversation here is about.
Broken immigration system, transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are.
They're crazy, man.
That it needs to be fixed. We need
Give me
more.
1 second.
I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigated.
I'm trying to get myself the control panel back. For some reason, it froze up on me. But look, I just wanted to prove to you guys, I already played the video of her being a part of the border power. Let me get back to this. So her talking about the transition surgery, stuff like that, and then we let this end. We kind of let this wrap up.
You are a serious journalist? They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process.
Nope.
We need to
Nope.
process those cases
Nope.
faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted.
Nope. They already had.
They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that that's going to get fixed. We've had it broken.
Trump took care of all that without any of that bills, any of those laws, any of the Democrats decided on a bill in Congress. He executive order. Why? Because the president of the United States is the executive powers to protect our borders and our country from enemies, domestic or foreign. Okay, so any kind of thing that could come into the country that may bring harm to the country, like a migration, a wild 20 million people migration coming to our borders, where you could have illegal criminals in there, you could have terrorists in there, you could have all kind of stuff. He has the power to say, hey, we don't even know who these people are, stop it. That's what Trump did. That's why he didn't even stop with just his executive order to put our military on the border to stop that. He actually, on top of that, threatened Mexico that he gonna make them broke as hell if they keep that up. And they put 28,000 soldiers across a 2,000-mile borderline of America, and it stopped everything. And he signed a deal with them, and he signed that executive order called Remain in Mexico, meaning everybody got to stay there until we vet them. So you can't even be in our country, not even in our detention centers. You got to be in Mexico. And she's talking about she needed a law. No, just don't sign the executive orders to delete the stuff that Trump did, and y'all job would have been easier. Why did they delete it? Because they want to stop the white vote. They want those new citizens. They are tired of fighting this every single election and got to go back and forth with the Republicans. They said, nope, we need 20 years to turn this country to a socialist country, and we need to stop having this fight that we got to fight every single 4 years. We need to stop that. The only way we're going to stop that is we got to make this country majority minorities instead of white people. That's what it is, y'all. So I'm just giving you the facts. So let's tie this up.
Solutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity.
Who cares if it's available? Who cares? And that's some crazy policies. You know, say it like, oh, it was available, but he didn't use them. I will. because it's available. So I'm going to let them use it.
To another gender.
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis.
What's a medical necessity basis for a transgender or transitional surgery? What kind of life-threatening situation that happens where you gotta have a transgender surgery? Like and I think she may be, I guess they say, oh, what if the woman or the guy decide that they want to commit suicide if they can't become a woman or they can't become a man? They're prisoners, so be it. It's ridiculous. What are we talking about here? It's crazy.
To people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate?
You see that? As he said, no transitional surgery has ever happened through his administration. She's trying to cut him off before he can finish that sentence. It's prosecutor and lawyer tactics, psychological manipulation, and listen to that again. Every time he's trying to make that point, and in his point or his sentence, she's trying to cut him off before that narrative could be out there, so people could say, "Wow, Trump even stopped people from being able to get that surgery in federal prisons." Pay attention to it.
Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
Answer the question.
Just as I think
but he not even paying attention to the question he's asking her. If it's a law that's in place that can allow for transition surgeries, she's saying, I'm going to follow the law. And if the law allows me to let them do it as much as they want to, I'm going to let them do it, because it's in law that we can federally allow illegal migrant prisoners and illegal migrant prisoners and prisoners transition, and we pay for $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 surgeries for them to transition into a woman or vice versa to a man. And if the law allows for our government to pay for it, we're going to let them do it. That's what she's saying to the question that he asking. So she is actually answering it.
Glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender.
Look, she's going to step on his lines.
You know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as
yes.
I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because
you spent $400 million on Project 2025 and
focusing
abortion.
On the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy.
This is called filibustering. Filibustering, guys. And it's, you just bloviate your talking points, your commercials, and your political ads, and your political talking points, and your attack, whatever's politically your narrative that you want to talk about. Even when you're having a conversation with another human being, you're acting like you're doing a political. You're talking to a screen, doing a political ad. You're not even trying to be in the conversation. You got an agenda. And her thing was, because they don't give her the questions ahead of the interview, because this is a real interview that she's having, and probably the first one that she really had with the media and the news organization, she's filibustering past it. And it's a good tactic that her and her campaign had got her. If you get stumped in everything, you get frustrated. If he's talking about stuff that you don't want to answer, just filibuster your talking points. Get your agenda out there. That's what they told her to do, and that's what she's doing.
As have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation
say,
and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans.
Y'all think she's like a outsider? Really, y'all? Do you think she's an outsider? It's ridiculous. Boy, I tell you, the misdirection is strong in this one. The dark side is strong in this one.
Who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
See the filibustering, and she just goes into other stuff. You get upset. Just like, it's ridiculous.
Addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been.
The decade where you guys didn't like a individual citizen that made his wealth from fighting billionaires and banks and everything, and doing a negotiation, and he won the negotiation with those people that put him where they always say, oh, you got $1 million from your father in order to start your business, or when your father died, he gave you his he passed his wealth down to 4 of his kids and stuff like that. But you guys also criticized him in the 90s that he lost a lot of money, and he had to sell his casinos in Atlantic City and stuff like that. So for whatever $1 million that he got, and whatever $400 million that his father divided between all his kids, he had lost it, and he now he sits with about $14 to $16 billion of liquid in assets. And it's amazing how you got broke ass people that's American citizens and additional senators and congressmen combined. They can't even add up to his money. And you got other politicians, even Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, all of them criticize Trump like he's a fool, like he's an idiot. And he made every single thing that they got 10 times over. He's an extremely successful man. And he lost it and made it back. So he went to zero where he would have went bankrupt, he would have been destroyed, and he found a way to make his money back. And the IRS never arrested him. They never investigated him. They were auditing his books for 20 years. Y'all had to put laws into law in order to indict him. So you got to come up with laws, put it into the New York legislation, they pass it, and then it allows for you to go indict him on some crazy stuff. And I'm not going to go through all that. But that's how strong Trump is. That's how much of a great citizen he is. You don't like how he used the tax law to get out of paying the government all of his money? Guess what? Leonardo DiCaprio does the same thing. Guess what? Denzel Washington do the same thing. Guess what? Tyler Perry does the same thing. Guess what? Apple does the same thing. Guess what? Charmin's Tissue does the same thing. This is ridiculous, dog. But they use the people's ignorance against them. That's what the Democrat Party does. That's what Saul Alinsky politics does. Look it up. Rules for Radicals. Look up the book.
Burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally...
That's the page she's turning for him fighting back against them.
Point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
You got the power. You're the president. You're the vice president. It's ridiculous to talk like this. This is the propaganda, y'all.
Actually, don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president.
And all those people are supporting her because they don't care about what their Christianity says. Because you got evangelicals, you got Christians, you got these Mormons, these piece of shit people that call themselves Catholic and Christians and Mormons, they're supporting a radical abortionist, a alphabet community advocacy. They're the most crazy, wild changing of the dynamics and the degeneracy of our thought process, legalizing drugs and all this stuff. They're supporting that type of person as a candidate. Why? Because they're trying to preserve the Pentagon. They're trying to preserve the CIA. They're trying to preserve the FBI. They're trying to preserve the DOJ. And Trump is coming in to clean house, to make sure people know how crooked they are. So he's gonna be signing executive orders so y'all can hear the secrecy and all the top stuff that they don't want y'all to know. They have to try to stop them. That's why. They're for Ukraine and the Russia war. They're for all these different stupid decisions that they made in the world. And to keep it going, you cannot let Trump come in. That's why they support her. They ain't support her because she's such a great candidate and she's such a person that's going to upkeep and stand our constitutional laws. No, she's going to demolish them. And they still support her. Why? They're trying to preserve those intelligence agencies.
One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being.
Saving the country ain't pretty. It ain't gonna sound pretty, ain't gonna look pretty. It's ugly. Saving the country. So that's what he gotta do. I love him doing it.
About him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
That ain't answering the question, you idiot. That ain't answer the question. Why are we supporting him?
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American.
Oh, yeah, they're stupid, but I would never say that. Boy, it's so nasty. But she's a prosecutor. One of the worst people in our country, is a prosecutor. Why? Because they don't got no guardrails. The grand jury is the opposition of the prosecutor. And a grand jury in our country can indict a ham sandwich, meaning that they pieces of shit. Okay? So you got a piece of shit prosecutor and you got a piece of shit grand jury. Because the grand jury is supposed to be the opposition of the prosecutor. They're supposed to be the check and balances of a prosecutor. That's why they're the grand jury and they're not just a jury. But if we allow a grand jury to not even take position of the case and the evidence to stop prosecutors from prosecuting people and indicting people, and we allow grand jury to be some kind of unified team with prosecutors, we got a dead society. We got a dead judicial system. We got a dead law situation. And until we communicate this and get that right, it's ridiculous. So I wouldn't say that. The American people are dumb, but the Trump supporters and the people that's voting for Trump, they got a good instinct. At the least, they got a great instinct. And their instinct is going towards the more intelligent area and the individuality area than the zombies of the Democrat Party. Okay? I'm getting, hey, they try to mess up my stream now. I think I'm getting flagged, y'all. I think I'm getting flagged. I'm getting flagged. Wow. Hold 1 second, guys, because even my stream stopped. It's freezing everything. Nice. Wow. I'm saying too much. I'm probably saying too much, y'all.
People, and in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you.
That was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at...
Sorry about that, guys. I'm having a freeze over here, and this they're trying to shut me down. They are trying to shut me down. Okay, so give me a second. I think I might have to start the stream over again. So give me a